Here, Thijs's lineup looks like it's targeted specifically against aggressive strategies. And we've heard that NoTomorrow is actually well known in China for playing aggressive decks. So this could actually work out very well for Thijs.
Yeah, Thijs was actually expecting to see a face hunter from NoTomorrow, and if that's the case, all of Thijs's decks are probably going to be quite good against that, since that was what he was hoping for.
And we see Dread Corsair in Thijs's opening hand here in this Warrior versus Druid matchup. Thijs is a player who I believe is likely, I mean, that's even more indication of it, likely to still be playing Patron Warrior despite the changes to Warsong Commander.
There it was. Cream Patrons. 1 week ago we saw a change go live to Warsong Commander, which kind of hurt the strategy overall quite a bit, but some players...
Considerably, yes.
Considerably, yeah.
Yes.
But some players, like Thijs, we see it here, is still considering the deck to be worth bringing to the big stage.
In the matchup against Druid, specifically with Patron Warrior, the most powerful card in the deck was always Grim Patron. The ability to generate a large number of Grim Patrons by damaging them with effects like Inner Rage, Whirlwind, the Death Rattle trigger of Deathspite, and make a huge board of just 3/3 minions. That was what was powerful in that matchup. So,
and it's actually that strategy that's forward in the new Grim Patron,
right,
because when you take cards out from the charge combos, the Warsong Commanders, the Frothings, you can put in more defensive or cards that allow you to better set up that situation.
Yeah, so the previous iteration of the Grim Patron Warrior deck used for big hits from charged Frothing Berserkers thanks to Warsong Commander. With the change to Warsong Commander no longer giving charge to minions, you can't do that anymore. But you can still use your self-damage effects to generate a huge board of Grim Patrons, which is very difficult for Druids to remove because the removal largely revolves around things like Swipe, which would just make more Grim Patrons in many cases.
Another thing that I've heard about this this new version of Patron is that it actually might be even better than the old one was against Druid in particular, since a lot of players have been mixing in the piloted shredders, which allows you to not lose the board control too badly early on.
Yeah, a lot of the cards that you frequently see in this new version, like you include Piloted Shredder, some of them will also just include Dr. Boom, Gramash, just powerful late game cards, which again are very strong in a matchup against a deck like Druid, whereas the sort of plan of the one-turn kill wasn't really ever what you were looking for in that matchup.
Yeah, Gramash does seem to be always included in some of the decks that I've seen, and I think the reasoning is you kind of write off the wins against control decks without your charge combo, but if you have Grommash, it suddenly, the mid-range decks where you're able to sneak in some damage, you have that win condition still.
Right, and here Thijs is looking at Deathspite and a Grim Patron already. Only thing he's really missing would be the Inner Rage, and with that he could be able to produce 4 Grim Patrons on turn 5 already, which would be one of the most powerful things, if not the most powerful thing you can do against the Druid early on.
But from the Druid side, he's able to get an Emperor on turn 5 here with the coin, and that's kind of a big deal. He has a lot of important cards. He has one combo piece. He's got the Ancient of Lore. He's got the Druid of the Claw to kind of stop some of that patron abuse a little bit.
Yeah, NoTomorrow here, looking at the Coin Emperor, which usually would be the best play you can do this early on, but there's also the Deathspite, and the Deathspite is going to clean it up quite nicely. He is still going to go for it, gets at 5 mana, gets 5 discounts on all of his cards in his hand right now.
Yeah, I think if his card was poorer quality, he probably wouldn't have made this play because the Deathspite counters it so well, but his hand really just has very, very good pieces.
This also does put Thijs in a position where he effectively has to attack with this Deathspite this turn, because Thijs doesn't have that Inner Rage. If Thijs had Inner Rage, he'd obviously want to play the Patron Inner Rage attack with the Deathspite, trigger the Whirlwind effect. But now NoTomorrow is basically forcing him to do that.
Yeah, very strong play from NoTomorrow. Getting to play the Ancient of Lore next turn, even if well, obviously it's going to die. They will lose that Emperor for now, but it's not too bad. There are just more minions to come. There will be the Ancient of Lore, there's still the Druid of the Claw. And Thijs starts drawing, picks up a Whirlwind for the Grim Patron, but still no Inner Rage. That's the one card he's missing.
I like this play from Thijs. He could have played the Grim Patron and just made an additional Patron by attacking with it. Here, though, he's able to draw 3 cards off of Battle Rage because he's able to retain the mana that he would have invested in the Grim Patron. Making just 2 Grim Patrons, especially against an opponent who has just gotten a discount from the Emperor, is generally going to leave them with a board they can clear fairly easily. You want to get more than that at once.
And that's a big problem, more so now rather than before, because before you had multiple win conditions, where here you really just need to spawn a bunch of patrons.
Yeah.
And if you play patron and it gets countered immediately, it's not just that you're being wasteful. You're literally throwing your your win condition.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less than 4 patrons coming out on the turn that the patron gets played. So you want to split it twice. Whirlwind, Inner Rage, that's one way to do it. Or another way would be the Unstable Ghoul and the Whirlwind, but the Unstable Ghoul, as we see, it's going to go down here. NoTomorrow drawing for some more cards.
Yeah, and often in NoTomorrow's position, you wouldn't necessarily want to expose your Shade to just be able to die in this position like it is now against this Armorsmith or against something like a Whirlwind effect. But he recognizes that if he plays any minion into the board, and Thijs does have a Grim Patron, that Ghoul would give him an additional Whirlwind effect that would spawn additional patrons.
Oh yeah, very threatening. It's a smart play to take it out here. So Thijs still unable to get as many patrons as he would like to.
Yeah, it seems like the best play here would be to like the Deathbite Whirlwind, but then you lose your Whirlwind, and this is kind of what you were trying to set up to do, and it makes it a bit more challenging to make that decision right away.
Yeah, the Whirlwind is really powerful here. He could play something like maybe the Acolyte of Pain, Whirlwind, and Execute or Battle Rage for some more cards.
He should fire War Axe if he does that, right?
Oh, that also works. Ah, it wants to draw more. I think it's digging for the Inner Rage in particular. Let's see if he finds it. Still not finding it. Whips the Death Spite. This is interesting to see where he goes with it. The Shade is something that he probably wants to take out since he has an opportunity to do it right here.
Okay, well, it looks like Thijs is going to concede to a lot of damage here. The idea, hitting the Ancient Lord but not killing it is getting at 1 HP. He plans on doing that 1 damage next turn from the Deathbite Death Rattle.
Oh yeah, it will certainly happen. But NoTomorrow has some place here. He definitely wants to add more minions to the board right now. With 7 mana, the most mana efficient thing would be to play the Shade and either the Shredder or the Druid of the Claw. But the Shade seems a bit shaky because there could be another Whirlwind effect in Thijs' hand, and then the Shade would get absolutely nothing done.
Yeah, that seems like an extremely high-risk play. I feel like the Druid of the Claw is kind of in that same boat, though. If there is another Whirlwind effect, it kills the taunt form.
He is going to go for the Shade. Thijs is certainly happy about this. He wanted to play the Whirlwind and do the Deathspite Whirlwind next turn.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This is going to go...
Charge is much better here, because as we talked about how just 1 Whirlwind clears both minions, well, you might as well get 4 damage extra.
Yeah. And here we go. This should be the Patron's turn. With that Whirlwind effect from the Deathspite, another one in his hand, he will be able to produce those 4 Patrons. He's even going to have 1 mana remaining afterwards, so he could go for the Execute on the Druid of the Claw to save some of his HP.
Yeah, Thijs has to be very careful about his health total here because he is getting pretty low. He's down to 18. If he were to attack the Druid of the Claw and not gain any armor, he could have 14. That's kind of the magic number in the Druid matchup because the combination of Force of Nature plus Savage Roar, which we do see in NoTomorrow's hand,
and it's discounted for 8 mana.
Right, so it can generate the 3 charge treants. They're each 2/2, and then Savage Roar gives everything +2 attack, which is 14 damage from no board whatsoever.
Right, that's the magic number. But you usually play that around on turn 9, or sometimes turn 7 if you're far enough ahead, because Innervate is sometimes a thing. But with the Emperor Tharson coming down so early in the game, it makes just the whole nature of it so unpredictable.
But Thijs does have the Dread Corsair, which it costs 0 because he had the Deathspite in play when he did play it. So he has not only generated a board of patrons, but has also been able to play a taunt to defend himself from NoTomorrow's possible combo. And he's at 18, so he's in a pretty safe position right now.
It's true, but going forward, NoTomorrow is not out of options just yet. He does he can clear all of it with the double Wrath and the Swipe, I believe. There should be another way. Is there another way? Like Force of Nature, double Wrath, but that doesn't seem very good.
I think he wants to hold on to the Force of Nature, given the fact that he does have the Savage Roar in his hand.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So 1 Wrath, 2 Wraths, and the Swipe. Patrons be gone.
Yeah. And this is definitely showcasing the efficiency of the Druid removal. When they are able to draw a significant number of cards thanks to Ancient of Lore, you can sometimes afford to just kind of spew off cards here or there. Because that didn't cost Thijs that much as resources, and NoTomorrow had to use 3 cards to clear off those patrons.
Thijs, he only lost his first Grim Patron there, but what's important to know is that he has consumed both Death Bites, and that is the main activator of the deck, because it's something you can set up 1 turn ahead of time.
Right.
Yep, the Inner Rages are still there though, and he does have that 1 Whirlwind But for this turn, almost certainly he's going to just go for the biggest minions that he can, which would be the No Machine Vendor and the Frothing Berserker. Optionally, he could go for Frothing Acolyte and the Ghoul. Or the Fiery War Axe over there. Okay, using all 8 of his mana very efficiently.
I'm kind of surprised the Frothing Berserker actually survived the new Patron list. How do you think that actually works with the deck?
The deck still does have effects like Deathspite, like Whirlwind, that can deal damage to a large number of creatures at the same time, which can get the Frothing Berserker to grow very, very large. It's also just against some aggressive decks, be able to play that in turn 3. It can put your opponent in an awkward position because it has 4 health for 3 mana, which is pretty high compared to most things that you'll see coming down at that point in the game. So it can not only help remove minions, but then put your opponent on a clock, which is really a dangerous situation for a lot of aggressive decks when they're forced to react.
Yeah, the 4 health on it is absolutely massive. Most of the early removal, like Wrath, Dark Bomb, Frostbolt, all of that deals 3. And if it only deals 3, then it's going to stay up and potentially give an extra card through a Battle Rage.
And it's just a very scary minion. Like right now, it's a 2/4, but you don't look at that creature as a 2/4
no,
right now.
it's not a 2/4. It looks like a 7/4 right now, except that you cannot pick Game Hunter. And NoTomorrow going for the combo just to clear.
Oh,
wow.
Well, he's got to do it. It prevents extra draws from the Acolyte, it prevents the Frothing from doing any crazy shenanigans, and he's able to push for a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, what a draw.
That is a very strong draw from Thijs there. The second Grim Patron. He does have the Unstable Ghoul and Whirlwind, so he can potentially set up the Unstable Ghoul right now, so that if NoTomorrow plays something that he can attack that into, he can play the Grim Patron next turn and get an extra card from it. He has enough mana, I believe, to play... Yeah, he can actually play the Ghoul, Inventor, and Acolyte if he so chooses.
Actually, I think he might just go for the Patron, so he's seen 2 Wraths already, he saw
true.
one combo,
That's
one
true.
swipe, so if he goes for something like Grim Patron, Unstable Ghoul, and the Whirlwind, like, what can really go wrong?
Yeah, the only thing that can kill that, I think, is another combo or Keeper plus Swipe.
But he's going, oh, there's Gromash. That's not something that we always see in a Patron list, but it is one of the newer lists, so I think it's a good inclusion, very strong.
Yeah, I think it's specifically for decks like Druid, the mid-range style decks that have a lot of back and forth game where you just need a little bit of points of damage in the end.
Yeah, it gives him the reach to potentially end the game directly from his hand without that Warzone Commander, which obviously doesn't work the way it used to.
Well, what I'm seeing right now is the end, actually. That Ghoul, that's going to survive. There's nothing that can kill it anymore, and that's going to act as a Gromash activator.
It does look like Thijs is going to be able to close this game out next turn thanks to the charge damage from that Gromash.
Yeah, Grim Patrons in the very first game after the changes to Warzone Commander. Wow.
Yeah,
This is really impressive stuff just to see the deck, and it works so well too.
Yeah, I mean, the deck is still, the card Grim Patron is still very powerful, and the sort of interlocking pieces of Acolyte of Pain and Battle Rage and all those effects. I mean, what really happened in this game was Thijs was able to generate so many additional resources thanks to Battle Rage that even though NoTomorrow was able to really keep up with his Grim Patron start, he wasn't actually able to keep him off of being able to actually draw to just this right here, being Gromash, and enough damage he has to just end the game.
All right, well, Thijs is going to be our winner of the first game of the tournament. Is this what we can
Warrior
expect?
versus Druid, so we're going to hold off on those rogue discussions to begin things off.
And not only is Ostkaka playing Rogue, but he's also playing Patron Warrior. And
That's right.
He, like back in the days when when the Warzone Commander was still giving minions charge, Ostkaka was definitely one of the best Patron players in the world. He consistently was finishing high on the ladder. I believe he was actually the player who accumulated the most points out of ladder, out of all the players. He got 191 points just from the ladder alone.
It's absurd.
Yeah, I believe he was finished in the top 100 7 or 8 times, which
Wow.
is there are maybe 7 or 8 months that actually counted too. It's pretty outrageous, but
It's pretty scary how consistent this guy is, and it's always a pleasure to watch him play. I think as an extremely talented technical player, like very few mistakes, if ever, to be honest.
I mean, he's a player who prior to this year hadn't really had great tournament results. He was a player who had the respect of a lot of high-level players, in large part because of his preparation with them and for his high ladder play. But now he's here, playing the World Championship.
Yeah, LoveCX, on the other hand, though, we don't really know too much about him specifically, but we do know that his lineup is one of the most robust in the current metagame. Druid's very dynamic. Paladin, if you haven't played much Hearthstone recently, I suggest that you don't queue up on ladder unless you really love playing against Paladins.
Well met.
Seems to be the overwhelming, majority.
It's kind of like an Annoyotron, except it's Uther instead. But.
Yeah. That's right. It's like, no, used to fight for good.
Yeah, probably the most popular ladder deck right now, and the Chinese players and the Asian Pacific players, most of them are bringing Paladin, but not the Europeans for some reason.
Welcome to the 5-mana club, by the way. Every single minion either is 5 mana or averages out to 5 mana.
Well, they're also making less than that now.
Yeah, let's make it 4.
Okay. Welcome to the 4-mana club.
This is a very, very strong play out of the Druid deck. Emperor Thorset in some combo decks isn't necessarily a card that you want to play early on, but in Druid, just giving you additional efficiency on all of your minions, making them all cost a little bit less, is extremely powerful. It also forces Ostkaka to use his resources to respond to the Emperor this turn. His best play is going to be something like the Inner Rage and Cruel Taskmaster, along with that Acolyte to remove the Emperor. That ends up being a very powerful play for Ostkaka, though, because he does end up with the only minion on board, as well as drawing multiple cards.
I have to say, I think that's quite powerful. I mean, he gets to draw 3 cards from the Acolyte. That's pretty amazing. You don't often get to draw that much. He does have to spend the Inner Rage, which I'm sure he would love to keep for later on. But there's still the Deathspite, there's still the Whirlwind. I think we might see that happen, but something like maybe Cruel Taskmaster and the Slam wouldn't also be too surprising.
Or, wow, just go with the
Deathspite.
So I assume that he wants to threaten the idea of patrons to make sure that he's really strong. Plus, you know, the weapon gives him the ability to answer the next minion too.
Yeah.
So one thing that you have to be worried about is how Druid will follow up the curve, and this will challenge pretty much whatever comes out for 4 mana.
I'm not sure if it was Ostkaka or some other very high-level Patron player who once told me that there has to be a very, very good reason not to play Deathspite on turn 4 if you have the opportunity to. And in this case, he thought that it was not that necessary to play it.
Yeah, so LoveCX goes with the Druid in cat form here, allowing him to charge that Acolyte down, prevent Ostkaka from getting more than 1 card, which is a pretty... If he played it in bear form, it would still die to the Deathspite, Death Rattle, as well as the Acolyte attacking, and Ostkaka would get an additional card.
No, yeah, definitely good to deny those extra cards. And Ostkaka showing another Battle Rage, but he doesn't really have an opportunity to use it very efficiently just yet.
It's interesting. Ostkaka does have the Slam here, and he can potentially use the Slam plus Cruel Taskmaster to just remove this from the board. And there's the Grim Patron.
Everyone might get in here next turn.
So this is why Ostkaka has been a little more conservative, trying to preserve that Deathspite, trying to preserve. We see he has the Whirlwind in his hand as well. So next turn he'll potentially be able to play that Grim Patron. Use the Whirlwind, and then attack with the Deathspite and spawn a whole bunch of patrons.
You know what happens the following turn, too, is that Ostkaka refills the hand with Battle Rages.
Yep. Yeah.
And everything becomes stronger, and you get more cards to fill out the rest of your curve.
However, LoveCX does have the option to play the Loatheb here, which would effectively stop the Whirlwind from happening.
The Loatheb isn't necessarily a great response. It does prevent the Whirlwind on that immediate turn, but the Loatheb will die to the Deathspite.
It's true. It's a little bit awkward playing the 5-mana minion into the 5 damage weapon because of the Death Rattle.
It's true. And Ostkaka doesn't even have to play the Patron. Sometimes you have to worry about if you can spend your turn, but he has a follow-up minion with the Pilot Shredder, which, interesting enough, challenges the board enough because it does 4 damage to Loatheb, which means it dies in the Whirlwind effect from the Deathspite.
Yeah, Ostkaka doesn't really have any issues to just delay the Patrons for 1 turn if the Loatheb is to come down.
Which might even be to his benefit if he picks up other cards that synergize for 1 more mana. For example, Execute now can be squeezed in on turn 7 with the Patron and Whirlwind.
That is certainly going to be powerful. He could go for the Patrons here, but I would expect him to get a little bit more greedy with it.
I mean, he also, if he just waits, he also has those Battle Rages as well that he can use to reload. I mean, he can even wait significantly longer. LoveCX isn't really putting him under a ton of pressure. It's nice to be able to use his mana to armor up, buy him a little bit more time to get to that big Patron combo.
And what's become more interesting, too, is the options widen up significantly with the more mana crystals. On turn 7, Ostkaka can go for Grim Patron, execute Whirlwind combinations. On turn 8, he can also use Battle Rage to draw some cards immediately and then refill. So there's a lot of things available to him. LoveCX, in the meantime, he's just drawing minions, which is normally very good. But the problem with drawing only minions is that if the board keeps getting cleared, you're only going to be playing minions into a board full of patrons that can pick up really good trades.
And this is going to be a very rough turn for LoveCX.
Oh,
Ostkaka
yeah.
has the ability to play that Patron, play Whirlwind, potentially even play Execute if he needs to.
Yeah, split it into 4. That's going to be almost impossible for LoveCX to deal with. Because the way that the Druid removal, the AoE works, is Swipe is the go-to card at the moment. Nobody plays Starfall really. So Swipe deals 4 damage to the main target and 1 damage to the other minions. And unfortunately, that 1 damage is not going to accomplish anything else but just spawn more patrons.
That's right. Almost everything of Druid enables more patrons. Force of Nature chunks by 2. That doesn't kill the full patrons. You see Starfall, like you said, Swipe, etc. Now, on the other hand, he could use Execute, but what do you think about using Shredder instead so that Execute can almost kill whatever comes out? What if an Ancient of Lore comes out the other end? You're just like, oh, I used my Execute already.
Yeah, it's going to use the Shredder.
Well, it's an Execute enabler. There it is.
At least it isn't a Doomsayer. At least it's not that.
Yeah. We've seen that before. I remember that happening to exactly Ostkaka a couple of tournaments ago, like some months ago.
Now, on LoveCX's end, he has Ancient of Lore to try to draw other things, but this is where you start getting a little bit desperate because the patrons, no matter what you do, will pick off a really good trade and then start damaging you right back, and you still haven't dealt with the Patron Flood. Not to mention, they might even copy each other and still keep going for board pressure.
Yeah, often Dr. Boom would be a great play on turn 7, but you're facing down Grim Patrons. The Grim Patrons can attack into the Boom bots and just generate more Grim Patrons.
Yeah, wouldn't work out so well. LoveCX going for the draw, trying to find that Swipe to go well with the 4-mana Azure Drake to potentially give that a little bit more for the board clear, but didn't pick it up. And Ostkaka has all the options in the world.
He just keeps digging with Battle Rage, drawing 3 cards here thanks to the 2 damage minions and his damage hero.
Yeah, probably gonna see another Battle Rage.
That's right. So with another Battle Rage, well, he can also go for Shredder, which is a really powerful board as well.
Yeah, he could.
And then Shredder gives him the ability to, let's see. I guess you can still Shredder and Battle Rage as well.
Shredder Fiery Axe also very strong. He could use the 3-1 Patron and the Fire War Axe to remove that lore. I don't think there's any real reason to use the Execute just yet, because the trades are already so powerful.
So many cards.
Yeah. If he chooses to play the Death Smite, he could also develop the 0-mana Dread Corsair.
It's true. That does give him ability to protect his patrons a little bit better, because the 3-1 doesn't get challenged by the hero power.
And then that Lance Carrier, you know, doing his job, taking one for the team, heading in there.
Yep. Not too bad.
And
Takes down that tree.
Yeah, now Ostkaka he's just in a fantastic position here. He has a Death Smite primed for next turn, where he's able to potentially generate additional patrons. He also just picked up an Armor Smith.
Ooh, LoveCX does pick up the Swipe. There's still going to be 1 Patron spawning, but it does help a tiny bit. From his point of view.
It does something, at least.
Yeah, it does do something. It's not that strong, actually.
Without the Swipe, he's facing down just so much damage. I mean, it's not clear that Swipe is enough, even.
Yeah, I don't think... Looking at Ostkaka's hand, that Chromage coming next, and with the Execute for potential taunt, I don't really see a way out.
Yeah, if
for
LoveCX does play the Azure Drake and Swipe, he will just die.
Yeah, but looks like every other play also results in the same thing.
Yeah, there's no big taunt minions to absorb everything. Ancient of War used to be one of the things that you could try to look to if they don't have Execute.
Yeah.
However, it's very optimistic to say the least that you swipe here and expect to survive, considering that Ostkaka has so much more ammo as well.
That is going to do it.
That's right.
The inner is just to rub it in.
The inner A should rub it in. Ostkaka is going to put Patron at 2-0 for the tournament so far.
Yeah, we've seen Patron. The actual discard Grim Patron win a bunch of games here, and Grom has been a big part of it as well. They don't have the big 70 damage combo kill with Warsaw Commander, but Grom, 10 damage in many cases, it's enough to close things out.